What's up, everyone? My name is Mitch, and this is the Black Effect. So I wanted to come on today real quick to talk about feminism and red pill. Now, I put a lot of thought into this, and what I've come to conclude is that feminism and the red pill are the same things. Now, they're not the same ideologies, they're not the same philosophies, but what makes them the same is that they are philosophical responses to the current environment, to the climate, to the social climate that we are currently experiencing here in the United States and across multiple Western civilizations. What makes them the same is that they are environmental responses to the current condition. So here in the States, feminism really gained its legs in the 50s, and we can all agree that culturally we were not very fair to women, to little girls in particular, right? They didn't have the same civil liberties that a lot of men had, and there was a lot of forward progress or push for forward progress when it came to women's rights and civil equality, which is what feminism was originally supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about the civil liberties and civil equalities of women here in the United States in particular. And with a lot of cultural discourse that we have today, especially centered around relationship dynamics or pair bonding dynamics, you get a lot of these guys that are absorbing a ton of red pill content. Some of it is good, some of it I don't agree with. One of the biggest things I don't agree with is feminism sits at the center of our dysfunction when it comes to relationship dynamics. Now, I don't fully support that ideal because feminism was the reaction to 50% of the population for being mistreated. Now, how they're the same is that in today's current climate, we don't have the same appreciation for a lot of men, and it can be incredibly hostile, which allows for an opening opportunity, a philosophical opportunity to open up. And over the last 20 years in general pop culture, but in the Black American culture in particular, it's been like this my entire life. And we're starting to see a lot of Black American men really take towards the red pill philosophy because a lot of things that have been laid at our feet that are negative is really not accurate history, right? Without going too deep into feminist history, let's say that it has been more of a detriment to the cohesiveness of Black American culture than it has been a boom for Black American women in particular. And that increasing attempt to try to get some type of social equity or social equality in terms of equity, as opposed to civil liberties and civil rights, has really pushed a lot of men, especially men who would support the ideal of women having the right to participate in capitalism, the right to own property, the right to go out and make their own money, make their own have autonomy, and make their own decisions as functioning adults. And what has happened is that there has been a lot of negative responses and a lot of backlash directed towards women because of some of the new agendas that isn't really centered around protecting women's civil liberties. And because of that, you get this new philosophical response to the environmental condition, which is red pill. Now, red pill people claim that this is really about seeing the world as, or the current reality as, and the truth about the current reality as they are, and really being objective. Some of it is true. I would make the argument that most of it isn't. And there's a lot of internal separation or inability to actually pair bond and cohabitate with each other between men and women, that the people who really absorbs the red pill philosophy have laid at the feet of feminism. It's not true. The culprit is industrialization. So without going to too many details and boring you to death, the human species has lived in 3 survival eras. We were hunter-gatherers. We transitioned from that to agricultural. We transitioned from that to what we have today, which is industrialized. Now, the timeline of the human species is about 300,000 years. And we spent the most of our evolutionary makeup in the hunter-gathering space. We spent the most time on this planet in that single era, which is about 287,000 years, give or take. And now, why is this important? Well, your environment is what dictates how you pair bond, how you mate, family building, cohabitation. All of that is conducive to your actual environment. And so the need for each other during that period was totally different. You fast forward 287,000 years, we learn agriculture, we learn how to farm, we learn how to grow crops. Then from that, you get a population boom. And the family building dynamics change again. So now, during this period, getting married early, having a bunch of children was the way that you increased your survivability as a family. Because if you're having 10, 15 kids and you own a farm, and the majority of your survival came from your ability to share crop and grow food or deal with cattle, was directly correlated to your labor. And so if you couldn't afford to outsource the labor, you basically create your own labor force. Now, we did that for about 17,000 years. And then we made the transition from that to industrialize. No one today in the United States as a whole go out and gather all their resources and food consumption through farming. So we don't spend the physical energy and the mental energy that is required in farming, doing crops for 10, 12 hours a day. And so that really allowed the industrial age, really allowed for us to engage in intellectual spaces and really push science forward. Science, through the scientific advancements, you get technology. Well, what happens after technology speeds up? We start to urbanize. So we go from a farm setting to an urban setting. Now, urbanization is every small town to major city. It's not just like a city here in Chicago or LA or New York. If you got a small community and small town and you go to the grocery store to get your food, that's urbanization. It's just different scales of urbanization. So with urbanization, changes how we now build families. And so it becomes less of a necessity to have children early in life, get married, pair bond, and build family dynamics in that sense, like we did when, pre-industrialized. It becomes more of a, this is just something that I want. However, nature doesn't care about what we want. And so our nature as a species is to procreate so that our species survival can continue. And so what we have today is we have a group of people and women who think that they can put off childbearing, having children, and they can go into their careers, and a lot of them can. And then they can still, on the back end of time, get the family dynamic, get the family building, and get married and have this life that is, for most women, not attainable. Now, for men, on the other hand, men, we don't, a lot of us, especially those who sits in red pill philosophy, thinks that a certain period in time is like the golden era of pair bonding, relationship dynamics, and family building. And there's a hard push to try to go back to that time period. But the failure in that is they don't see that we're never going back there, because unless we all give up technology and recreate the environment that allotted for us to have that traditional family dynamic, then there's no pathway to the past. So we have to go forward. And what we need to do is learn how to mesh some of the old and some of the new together in order for us to be able to have a cultural, to take our next step in cultural progress. And in my opinion, the first way of doing that is identifying that both the feminism and red pill are just two sides of the same coin. And in order for us to actually be able to move forward, we should probably listen and take some of the things from both sides and make them applicable. Now, I consider myself a democratic socialist, and I also consider myself a liberal patriarch, because I am convinced that having a solid foundation where you have positive influence from men, cultural, that affects cultural influence, is something that we are deeply missing, and we need more of that today. But it should be up to the men to decide how we formulate and reinvent what we think the good parts of masculinity, or the bad parts of masculinity, what we should take into the future and what we should leave in the past. And that's also true with women. Like, women need to understand that some of the things that they're asking for are the products of yesteryear. So if you want some of those things, you got to be willing to give men some of the same things that the men enjoyed from yesteryear, and how we cohabitated, and how we mated, and how we live with each other, and we build family dynamics with each other. So until that can happen, now this is critical, even more critical for the Black community, because we are psychologically affected completely different than anyone else in this country. And so we have one more dragon to slay than just putting all our cards on the table and saying, here's what I want as a woman out of a man, and here's what I want as a man from a woman. No, we still have some old past, some old demons that, and some old crosses that need to be bared before we can move forward. But we can't move forward until we understand that we are not each other's ops. We have never been each other's ops. And a part of that is that there's a lot of public display of forgiveness that men have to give. However, there is a lot of public display of being apologetic and responsibility that women need to bear when it comes to some of the messaging centered around the black male identity, and our fathers and our grandfathers, and how the relationship dynamics actually were from our grandparents. So just a quick thought. I would like to hear what you guys have to say about it, but yeah, feminism, red pill, same things. They're just philosophical responses to the environment. And that environment was either at one point in time very hostile to women, and in the present time, very hostile to men. So until we fix that part, there cannot be any real cultural progression forward, especially for us as Black Americans. And if you are a person like me who is vested in this country because I have children, I want the best for them. And I do believe that the best for them is having a stronger Black community, not excluding anyone, but we got to fix the in-house shit first. And so, yeah, man, that's just a few things that I wanted to make sure that I got recorded, and I want to hear y'all opinion about it. So, my name is Mitch, and this is the Black Effect. Peace out.